The courthouse doors hadn't even finished swinging shut behind Prince Harry when the mood of the entire internet did a full body spin. One minute it was legal tension, serious faces, headlines about testimony and accountability, and the next, a home video. Soft lighting, music, Meghan smiling, dancing, glowing like nothing heavy had happened at all. And just like that, the narrative snapped in half. Because this wasn't just any random day online. This was a day already loaded with meaning, with cameras, with commentary dissecting Harry's latest courtroom appearance. People expected a statement, maybe a show of solidarity, maybe silence wrapped in dignity. What they didn't expect was a vibe shift so sharp it gave everyone digital whiplash. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about court anymore. It was about timing. And oh, people noticed. The clip looked casual, playful, almost disarmingly normal. Meghan dancing like a carefree mom at home, a glimpse of family life, something meant to feel warm and relatable. But the internet doesn't watch moments like this in a vacuum, especially not when the couple at the center have built an entire public identity around media harm, privacy, and protecting their children from the chaos of the online world. So when viewers read that the video was filmed by their daughter, that's when the temperature really changed. Because now it wasn't just a cute clip, now it was a contradiction. For years, Harry and Meghan have spoken with urgency about the dangers of social media, the bullying, the mental health toll, the invasive nature of online life. They've described digital spaces as overwhelming, even unsafe, especially for kids. They've positioned themselves as advocates for stronger protections, more responsibility from platforms, more caution from parents. So critics are now asking, if social media is that risky, why is your child connected to content on it at all? Supporters said that's an unfair leap. They argue it was simply a sweet family moment, a proud parent sharing joy, nothing sinister, nothing calculated. They say millions of parents post things their kids film or are part of, and no one calls it hypocrisy. But this family doesn't live in millions of parents territory. They live in global spotlight territory. And that spotlight turns every choice into a statement, whether intended or not. The timing poured gasoline on the debate. Harry exits court, headlines peaking, public attention laser focused, and then boom, a cozy, dancing at home moment hits the feed. To some, it felt like emotional misdirection, a pivot, a shift in tone designed to soften the narrative, to move the conversation from legal gravity to domestic charm. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But in gossip culture, perception becomes reality faster than facts can catch up. And then there's the detail that really keeps this story alive, the credit to their daughter, not visible on camera, not performing, but named as the one behind the lens. That small line changed everything because it moved the child from the background of their lives into the center of a public conversation, one already swirling with controversy, commentary, and critique. Parents watching from the sidelines had feelings, strong ones, because parenting in the age of social media is already a minefield, and when high-profile figures who warn about digital harm appear to dip their own toes in, people take it personally. They start measuring words against actions. They start asking whether the rules being preached are the same ones being practiced. That's where the phrase "you can't have it both ways" started echoing through comment sections. Can you campaign against the dangers of online exposure while also sharing family content online? Can you criticize platforms while using them to shape your own narrative? Is selective participation responsible, or is it still participation in the same system you say is broken? These questions are bigger than one video, but this video became the lightning rod for them. And let's be real, Harry and Meghan don't get the luxury of low-stakes moments anymore. Every post, every appearance, every silence is analyzed like a chess move. Supporters see two parents trying to live normally under impossible scrutiny. Critics see public figures who want the benefits of visibility without the downsides of accountability. Both sides feel convinced they're seeing the truth clearly. Meanwhile, the dance keeps looping on timelines, stripped of context, turned into reaction memes, debated on panels, dissected by commentators who freeze-frame smiles and speculate about motives. What was likely filmed as a happy, fleeting moment inside a home has now become a symbol in a much larger cultural argument about privacy, branding, and consistency. And hovering over all of it is Harry's court fight, a battle deeply tied to media intrusion and control over personal narratives. That context makes the dancing clip feel less like random content and more like part of an ongoing saga where media, family, and messaging are constantly colliding. It's not just mom dancing. It's mom dancing on the same day the world is debating debating how the media treats your family. That's why this blew up, because it sits at the intersection of everything they've been talking about for years. The press, the internet, children, privacy, control. One soft-focused clip managed to touch every nerve at once. Maybe the intention was joy. Maybe it was defiance. Maybe it was just a mom liking a sweet video and not overthinking it. But intention doesn't stop interpretation. And interpretation is what fuels gossip, headlines, and backlash cycles that refuse to die quietly. Now, the big question hanging in the air isn't really about dancing at all. It's about credibility, about whether audiences believe what they hear from public figures when those figures also live very publicly, about how hard it is to walk the line between advocacy and participation in a world where being offline can mean losing your voice, but being online can mean losing your message. Right now, that line looks blurry, and one cheerful dance ended up spotlighting it in a way no speech ever could. And just when people thought the conversation might cool down, it actually went deeper, because the internet didn't just argue about the video, it started dissecting what the moment revealed about control. Control over image, control over narrative, control over when the world sees warmth versus when it sees war. Because make no mistake, Harry walking out of court wasn't just another celebrity errand. That courtroom represents years of anger toward the press, years of saying we were hunted, we were exposed, we were hurt. It represents a fight against intrusion, against stories being told without permission, against private lives becoming public property. So when a private family moment gets released on the exact same day, people don't see randomness. They see choreography, not dance choreography, narrative choreography. Suddenly critics are saying this wasn't just a home clip. It was a tonal reset button. Courtroom tension was heavy, serious, legally complex. A dancing video is light, human, disarming. One pulls the public into a debate about accountability. The other pulls them into a feeling, and feelings travel faster than legal facts. That's why some commentators are convinced the post functioned like emotional smoke, not to hide the court story completely, but to soften the atmosphere around it, to remind people we're not just litigants and headlines. We're parents. We're a family. We're relatable. And here's where it gets even more layered. Relatability has always been a powerful tool in celebrity culture. The more famous you are, the more valuable normal looks. Kitchen videos, casual laughter, unfiltered moments. They create connection. They humanize. They rebuild sympathy when public opinion feels tense. But the Sussexes have a uniquely complicated relationship with relatability because their brand has also been built on boundaries, on stepping back, on limiting access, on controlling what the world gets to see. So every time they do offer a peek inside, it hits harder and gets judged harder, because now the public isn't just reacting to what's shown. They're reacting to the contrast between what's shown and what's usually withheld. That contrast is where the accusations of mixed messaging grow louder. Some people say this proves the couple only rejects media exposure when they're not the one shaping it, that they criticize intrusion but are comfortable with visibility when it's self-directed, that they oppose the machine but still use its spotlight when it suits them. Supporters fire back just as fiercely. They argue there's a massive difference between harassment and voluntary sharing, between being chased and choosing to post, between exploitation and expression. And honestly, that's a fair distinction. But public perception doesn't always operate on legal definitions. It runs on emotional consistency. And to a lot of viewers, the emotional message has been the online world is dangerous, especially for kids. So when their own child becomes part of online storytelling, even in a small, indirect way, it creates a discomfort that logic doesn't immediately smooth over. Because parenting is personal for everyone watching. Every mom, every dad, every guardian has their own rules, their own fears, their own lines they won't cross. So when they see high-profile parents doing something different, especially after public warnings about digital harm, it hits a nerve that goes beyond celebrity gossip. It turns into a values conversation. And values conversations get loud. That's why this didn't fade in a news cycle. It stuck. It spread into podcasts, panels, TikTok breakdowns, long threads analyzing not just what happened, but what it means. Some people say it shows how impossible modern advocacy is, that you can't campaign for safer digital spaces without existing in those spaces. That total withdrawal equals silence, and silence equals losing influence. By that logic, selective participation isn't hypocrisy, it's strategy. Others said that argument only works if you're extremely careful, extremely consistent, and extremely transparent about where the lines are. And they argue this moment blurred those lines instead of clarifying them. Then there's another layer nobody can ignore: brand. Whether they like it or not, Harry and Meghan are not just individuals anymore. They're a brand ecosystem. Causes, foundations, media projects, projects, public speaking, partnerships, every public action feeds into how that brand is perceived. And brands live or die on trust. When audiences sense a gap between message and behavior, even a small one, it plants doubt. Not always dramatic doubt, sometimes just a subtle shift, a raised eyebrow, And in the long run, those small shifts matter because the Sussex narrative has always leaned heavily on moral authority, speaking out about media ethics, online safety, mental health, privacy rights. So when critics spot something that looks inconsistent, they treat it like a crack in the foundation. Fair or not, that's how public storytelling works. And still, through all of this noise, there's a quieter truth sitting underneath. This likely started as a joyful, ordinary moment. A parent smiling at a clip and thinking, this is sweet, I want to share it. Not, this will spark a global debate about digital ethics. But that's the price of living at this level of visibility. Ordinary intentions don't guarantee ordinary consequences, especially not when history, messaging, timing, and public emotion are already swirling together. So now this dancing video exists in two worlds at once. In one world, it's just a family memory, harmless and warm. In the other, it's a symbol in a bigger cultural argument about children, privacy, advocacy, and whether public figures can ever perfectly align what they say with what they do. And that's why this story refuses to shrink, because it isn't really about dancing. It's about trust, about timing, about whether the people who warn us about the storm can still step into the rain without being accused of loving the spotlight.